Everybody's
Okay.
muted.
Chris is laughing. It's just that.
Okay, we are live in,
Okay, we're good to start?
hold on 2 seconds. Let me, oh, okay, I've got to figure out why we have an echo. Not sure why we have an echo.
We turn the sound on in here.
Yeah, it might be. You should be able to hear. Okay, you want to go ahead and start the meeting? Mayor?
All right.
Oh, Jake.
I think it was me that was giving you the echo because I was on my phone and my.
Oh, okay. I'm muted. Doesn't matter. I can just talk over.
Are you guys still
Oh,
hearing
you know
the
what? We
echo?
need the video.
I don't hear it.
Is John coming tonight? I don't see him on here.
We need the video.
Hey, guys.
So if you want to unmute, just holler. Okay.
Jake, is John coming tonight?
Christy, I can't hear you.
Oh. Can everyone else hear me?
Yep.
I can hear both of you.
Yeah.
We can hear you.
Oh, weird.
Can you hear us? Me, Jake?
Nope.
No?
Jake, can you hear me?
Can you hear me now?
No.
He can't hear anybody, it sounds like.
I got you.
Okay.
Technical difficulties on my side.
Okay, I'm going to mute you for now. Okay, go ahead.
I can go ahead and start the meeting?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. It's September 9th, 2020. The time is 6:01, and I'd like to open the Vineyard City Council. I'll go ahead and lead us. I'll say the prayer, and then, Grace, did you want to do the Pledge of Allegiance?
Sure.
Okay. Heavenly Father, we're so grateful for this beautiful opportunity to gather as a community and to work on building a beautiful home for our residents. And we pray that we will be able to feel thy spirit and to come up with good ways to work together in order to better serve our community. And we pray that the people that have come to present tonight will feel prepared and to know how to present to us, and we'll be able to hear their needs. And we say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
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 Please follow along.
Oh, wait,
I
wait,
pledge
wait,
allegiance.
You
I
muted.
think you're muted.
Okay.
Sorry, now, go.
Okay, please follow. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go ahead and move into public comments. I know that Dennis Frank is here tonight with a public comment.
Yes, okay, good. I don't have to say anything.
Let's see. Dennis, can you unmute yourself in order to speak, or do we need to unmute you?
I'm here.
We got it.
Hey.
Excellent. Thank you, Mayor and City Council. I was physically at the meeting before COVID started back in May. And so that's been 6 months ago, talking about Penny Springs Park.
Yep.
And we've missed out on a whole summer. This is the second summer we haven't been able to use that park, and would like to get more information on that. There are people that are going into the park. The fences are not secured, so people go in there. Is there a fine for trespassing? Because it says no trespassing. Just wanted to get more of an update. Thank you.
Thanks, Dennis. And actually, Jake, I don't know if you wanted to give an update or who will, but can you also give an update on Sunset? I can't hear you.
It just notified me I was still muted. So we met with the developer yesterday and our public works and engineering staff, and we went through what is left on their punch list items. And Sullivan is on this meeting, I believe I saw his name, so he can help me clarify if there's anything that I missed. But as far as Penny Springs Park is concerned, they had 2 items left on their punch list, and I believe both of them are supposed to be done this week. And as soon as they're done, we should be able to take over that park. So we have been working through a list of punch list items all summer, and it's down to what I believe are the final two. Sullivan, will you correct me if I'm wrong on that?
So Preston went out and did a walkabout in Kenny Springs today. There are a few more issues than two, but if they will get going on it, they can get those cleared up, with just a matter of a few days, I think.
Okay, so our anticipation is that we should have that park, be able to open that park as soon as next week.
And just to clarify, Jake, what that means is it's currently not.
We have not taken ownership of the park.
Yeah, we do not have ownership yet, so it's still held by the developer until they finish those items. At which point, then the city would take control and ownership of it, which then we could enforce if we needed to, no trespassing, things like that. But currently, that's not within our realm to do so because it's privately held.
Yeah, so we're not doing the maintenance yet or any of that right now on the park, so we would be taking all of that over. We wanted to make it kind of a clean break between the developer and us, and so we've been hammering out a lot of the issues. I don't know if you listened to the city council meeting a few weeks ago. We discussed shared use and maintenance agreement on the park, so we've been kind of getting through a lot of the issues that were outstanding with that park, and we are in the home stretch for sure.
Jake, if you recall,
If you recall, we also
There we go.
talked about at Sunset Beach Park that we're waiting on some playground equipment to be installed. So that one's pending, that when the developer will get back to us, when they can get the playground equipment together.
Right, but specifically on Kenny Springs Park.
Volume works there.
So Sunset Beach has a handful of items that we're waiting on. And one of them being getting the playground equipment installed. So we've got a handful of items left on the Sunset Beach one. Kenny Springs.
What to do about? Maybe I can turn the speaker on. Turn this one on, but then you.
No.
Yes, thank you very much. We'll look forward to, we want to use that park every week, so.
Great. Thank you so much for coming and keeping us
Thank you.
on track.
Jay, can I just ask a question about the park? When and how will residents know that it's open? Is it just gonna be open unceremoniously one day, or what's the plan?
We could grand opening if we want. We could take down the fences and put up some balloons. We could do anything you guys want to do. So we haven't talked about any grand opening or anything like that at this point. It was planned to just kind of take all the fencing down and, parks kind of.
Well, I would assume social media will make a post and things like that,
Yeah.
so people are aware.
I believe we were gonna do an assemble announcement also.
Yeah, so just throw it out there on social media. We'll definitely announce it in the newsletter and stuff like that.
All the residents that have been waiting from the houses that live by, we'll have them run through a big ribbon.
Yeah.
That'd be
Maybe we
great.
could have, I think it'd be nice if we could have Sherry Kay and maybe some other members of the Heritage Committee even share why it's named Penny Springs. I don't know if we do social.
That would be a fun social media post, actually. I think that's a really great idea.
Well,
Maybe
why
we
don't
have the horse
Why
there.
don't we have them do like a Facebook Live or something? We can have them do it from the park. And
That's a
that'll be our grand opening.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I like the idea of having Sherry Kay come share the story about them.
Sherry Kay should ride a horse and jump it into.
I liked it. I don't know that Sherry Kay will like that we're volunteering her for things. We'll bring it up.
Tell her that Christy will ride the second horse and do the same thing.
Yeah.
I will do it.
Okay, are there any other public comments? Is there anything that I'm missing? Pam, do we have any?
I didn't receive anything. I don't see anything in the chat. Jake, you see anything in the chat?
I don't. I didn't receive anything either.
Okay.
Hey, well, great, that brings us, unless council, do you have anything that you'd like to report today?
Nope.
Okay, that brings us to our code enforcement planning technician, and Brian's gonna do his quarterly report.
He needs to be able to share.
Alright, ready?
Hold on. We have an issue.
Brian, you should have the ability to share your screen now.
Hold on. Give me a second. Let's try that now. But I then, oh, you know what it is?
Is that alright?
No, that's causing.
It's still coming above.
Every time I try to unmute, it says.
But it wasn't doing it up here.
Okay, so right now I'm muted, but you can hear me through Zoom?
No, they can't hear you
They
through
can't hear you.
Zoom.
So if you turn that microphone on and leave yours off, turn that microphone off, and you try that.
I don't think so,
So now,
because
How
I'm
about,
muted.
how about now?
are you still muted on your computer?
How about now? Is that better?
Yes, so
It's muted here. This mic is on.
that's on.
Yeah.
But I don't think they can hear it.
No?
So is Pam, is your microphone on?
My microphone is on, and now I'm unmuted as well.
Okay, yeah, so
I
now
don't
try
know.
Brian, speaking through that microphone.
Okay. Is that better?
Can anybody hear him?
No?
I will speak again.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Thanks, guys. All right. Yeah, so I put together this code enforcement report. The data was put together or was taken from City Inspect from the months of January 2018 to June 2020. The data from 2020 is a little bit limited because of the transition when McKenna left the position, and then I was being trained in the position and learning how to do everything, and then now I've finally gotten my feet under me, and but there is a little bit of data that wasn't input into City Inspect for after she left. There might have been some data that didn't get transferred over from iWork. Basically, we got as much data as we can find from City Inspect. So, which I think paints a pretty good picture as for the state of code enforcement as it is. These are the categories that we gathered from those 3 years. Pretty basic stuff when it comes to what you think of in code enforcement. And then at the bottom, we have the total number of unique cases for each of those years. 2019 being the busiest one, at least from what was in City Inspect. And then I have a few more graphs and things that show in more specific information regarding this data. This bar graph is just a breakdown of the code enforcement concerns by categories for each of those years. And then this is a little more of analysis, I guess, breakdown. For those 3 years, construction activity gave 37 unique cases. Sorry. And then, so these were the categories that saw the most unique cases over those 3 years. Construction activity, stormwater at 28, and then parking at 25. And that makes a lot of sense because we've obviously had a lot of growth in construction going on. And a lot of the stormwater concerns are actually kind of related to construction activity with like mud and debris in our stormwater system. And if we move down a little bit, in 2018, these are the top 3 code enforcement concerns in 2018. Construction activity at 20, stormwater at 6, and business licensing at 6. And then for 2019, The top three categories were stormwater at 22, short-term rentals at 16, and then construction activity. And then for 2020, parking issues were the number one concern, followed by other. And other is, I saw a lot of law enforcement issues in that category. And then construction activity was at 4, and then occupancy was at 4. And then, as I said, 2020 was very minimal data because of the transition between McKenna only had 2 months in that year where she was recording data. And then there was that time where there was no one in the position, and then the time that it took to train me. This is a breakdown. This table breaks down the number of code enforcements by month. And you can see in this table, sorry, I'm going to scroll down a little further. Visual things are always better to see. So this table shows how the number of code enforcement concerns by months. And something that's pretty interesting is that we're pretty consistent in terms of the number of code enforcement cases that we're seeing throughout the year. I mean, it slows down a little bit in the winter, but for the most part, people are calling in to report concerns throughout the year for most of the year. So I'm just trying to see if I missed something. The summer months and the fall months are probably the busiest throughout the year. And then just to give you a little rundown of my own experience with code enforcement in the last 3 months that I've been in the position. It's been pretty busy. I think I probably see anywhere from, or I probably receive anywhere from 10 to 15 code enforcement concerns via email daily from different things, parking, occupancy, illegal home occupations, or issues with ADUs, weeds, lack of landscaping, things like that. So, I mean, I see, I guess in that regard, it's pretty busy. And then I probably receive like 5 or 6 phone calls a day of people just reporting different things. And so I hope to be able to quantify that for the next quarterly report on code enforcement and be able to give you a further breakdown on how exactly, how that's been looking in the last, what will have been like 6 months by the next one. And maybe some of the data that was lost in that transition from iWork to City Inspect, we'll be able to get a hold of and then be able to show a broader picture. So, sorry, I probably ran through that pretty fast, but do you guys have any questions about any of the tables or graphs that are in this document? Yeah?
This is Morgan. Can you explain the difference between code enforcement and complaints? Because you're showing, because I think there's kind of a pretty big disparity between, the amount of complaints that you're addressing that's daily, multiple daily, and you're showing basically 35 code enforcement. So I want it to be clear the difference between code enforcement, you're sending out letters, and active cases.
Okay. Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah, so complaints, so we receive citizen concerns. I receive them via email. People are able to fill out a form online that then comes to my inbox about various complaints or things that people notice that can then become code enforcement violations. So what I do with these citizen concerns or also things that sometimes are just phone calls, I try to address them as I receive them. So I'll try to reach out to the property owners or the business owners either that same day or that the next day or sometime that week, and I explain, that there's a potential code violation going on here, and I give them kind of an opportunity to address the issue within a certain amount of time. Then once that time passes, then and there hasn't been any remediation of the issue, then it becomes an official code enforcement violation, where they then receive a letter, and we then input it. We also input it into. I've been inputting it into City Inspect, and then that's where the difference is, where it's just not a complaint, and then it becomes something where we track in our system. And I think there was a little bit of differences of how McKenna was doing it and now how I'm doing it. But overall, I'm trying to do everything, input everything into City Inspect, and that way we just have one location where we know things are. But does that sound clear as for the difference between complaints and code enforcement cases, I guess?
Yeah. Brian, this is Chris on the council. What was the large increase in June of this year? What was that mostly attributed to?
Trying to see. I think the first table would probably show.
There was a bar graph showing there was quite an increase, it seemed like, in June
Next one.
of 2020.
June.
Keep going.
Maybe this will show me right then. Yeah, June showed 30.
Right. Trying to remember what that was.
Right there.
I'll have to get that answer to you.
When did they start the overpass? Maybe that had been maybe it wasn't that then.
There's part of that too.
What is that?
That's when, I don't know if that's the month Brian started, but I think you started at the end of when was it? Did you start right in June?
I started at the beginning of June, yeah.
Beginning of June, so that.
Maybe there was a backlog.
I had about, I had a whole list of complaints, maybe 50 complaints that I delivered to Brian as he's just starting president for starting this position. So that was a fun day. And so I think probably a lot of those are from that initial.
Right. Yeah, I do remember having a lot.
Is that also why there's what's the disparity between like 2019 and 2020? You can see there's a significant decrease on every category. Is that because you didn't have people working on it?
No, part of it too is Brian, through the budget with the COVID, one of the directives from Jake in kind of his wisdom saying, hey, we need to make sure we're not going to go over budget because all cities are taking it. We had to slash the position to a full-time position. McKenna was full-time, and she spent a lot of time on code enforcement, whereas Brian is part-time, and so whereas she could devote a lot more time to driving in and following up. He's basically is able to squeeze it in because he also does all our planning reviews as well and our planning commission meetings. And we're only in September, so I would imagine as he's able to get caught up, you'll see that gray box grow in most of those categories.
So the disparity is that we just haven't had the time to do more work on it. It's not that we're doing a better job as a city, there's no complaints, it's
Right.
get to them.
We probably have more complaints. That might be a good thing next time, Brian, next quarter report, is to start tracking complaints. Because that's probably what you as city council want to actually see is how many citizens are complaining, what categorically, what are they complaining about. And we're able to resolve most of those over the phone or by a couple meetings before they turn into code enforcement. And so, yeah, we actually and this is more of anecdotal from my experience with McKenna left, because I received all the complaints. I felt like our complaints had gone up, especially with COVID. You had more people at home, staring at their neighbors' weeds. and the phone calls kind of started coming in. So I believe we actually had gotten more complaints, but we had to actually run numbers.
So, Morgan, I was going to suggest what I'm really interested is seeing how many complaints came in and what they were versus how many went to final action. That data seems to be most valuable to us at this point.
Okay, we'll have that in the next report.
I think one of the number one complaints that is that, what's the point of having codes if we don't enforce them, right? So, I guess my concern about all this is, where are we going from here? Do we need to hire somebody full-time? Does Brian need more time? I'm more actually concerned by these numbers.
Yeah, most cities, ours, I think Jake and I talked quite a bit about this, but, typically out.
Oh, we lost him.
Code person, a lot of times they're in someone who's department, or they're, depending on where they're at, or they're in the planning department or what department, but typically a city has someone who's dedicated towards it. We've grown so fast that we've had to, take on 2 titles per position, so this is a 2-title position.
Well, so after McKenna left, so Brian just
Really hard, 2 titles.
Keep losing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, you're breaking in and out, Morgan.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. My nephews are out of the house, so I've run into the basement. But I would recommend the next 2 years that we get a full-time code enforcement, especially with our population is just getting more and more. The complaints are just going to grow population.
Well, that's where that data would become important to us. If we have the number of complaints versus how many went into actual action, that would inform us as to that need.
No, yeah, you're absolutely right, Tice. We'll start tracking that, and we'll provide that next report.
I think it could also make it so we can systematize some things that go out, kind of like what we were talking about, Morgan, was sending things out in the utility bills earlier on in the year to kind of notify new residents of the laws that we have in the city as people are kind of flooding in.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, we'll work on that, and I think the new resident packet, we can look at that and put some great information in there. But yeah, we'll definitely have those numbers ready for the next report.
I just want to thank Brian. I think, taking over a job like that, especially when it's part-time, probably could be a full-time position. I just want to thank you for your time putting the numbers together, because it's hard to step into something like that and feel like you can keep your arms around that big of a tree up front. So I just want to thank you for your time on that.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, it's been.
You're doing 2 full-time jobs, so.
It's been a really good learning experience for sure. For sure. One thing that I wanted to know is that just alone with the stuff that comes into my email inbox or onto my phone, that alone keeps me pretty busy. Let alone me being able to go out and find and address code enforcement problems that I have to go investigate, which I'm not having enough time to be able to do that. So there could be even more done and even more data gathered in that regard. But like I said, it's been a great opportunity, and we're doing the best that we can. So thank you for that.
Are there any other questions for Brian? Thank you so much, Brian. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Jake,
Yeah.
you mentioned that you had some reports.
Yeah, just really quick, I wanted to let the council and the residents know that we're participating in the United Way Day of Caring tomorrow. We're building some STEM kits for at-home learning for the United Way. So we purchased supplies for, I think, 200 kits to donate to the United Way. They're building a marshmallow catapult. It's just a little tiny kit. They were pretty cheap. And the staff's gonna participate in that tomorrow. But if anyone from the council would like to join, we'll be in the council chambers from 8 to noon. You can just swing by and make a few kits and then be on your way.
We're also gonna make 100 kits for residents that we'll have at the front counter. And we'll make a social media post about all this, but they'll just be available for anybody with a student. They can come by and grab a kit for their student and make them at home. They should be little fun science projects that you can work on. We picked that one because we had that STEM presentation a couple weeks ago, and we thought it was a fun idea, and so that's the one that we're participating in again tomorrow in the council chambers for the meeting. And then just for the public's information, we are in the hiring process of the city engineer. We did a first round of interviews last week, and we'll be doing the second round of interviews with some final candidates next week. So we're moving forward in that hiring process. And that's all I have, Julie, unless there's some questions for me.
Okay, are there any questions for Jake? Okay, well, that sounds really exciting. That's great to hear about the project tomorrow from 8 to 12. I guess we can go ahead and move into our consent items. I'll just need a motion unless somebody would like to take it off to discuss.
So moved.
Okay, any second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Right, aye. Any opposed? Okay, great. We'll move on to discussion and presentation. So Jake's going to talk a little bit about the process we're going through to hire a city attorney.
So we have done an RFP for the city attorney, and we have received 4 responses to that request. I believe that the city council has seen them, so we need to talk about what the next step is. If you guys want to conduct interviews, how you want to move forward in this process. We can definitely do interviews if you want. This is an appointed position by the city council, and so I talked to David Church to find out if that needs to be done by resolution or anything like that, and he said it's just a normal appointment from the city council, so there's not anything specific that we need to do. We just need to pick one of these firms that we feel comfortable with, and then we can get it on the next agenda. So I did talk to David Church, believe he's on the call. He was willing to help us out until we find a replacement, so we do have his help. And I believe he knows each of these firms, so if anybody on the council wants to speak to him about his thoughts before we do interviews, we can do that as well.
Okay. I think it'd be great to do some interviews and probably call and talk to David Church about it outside the meeting. And
Okay.
Council, what do you think?
I was just gonna add, the items they turned in were quite informative, but I really was not capable, given that information, to differentiate one from another, actually. So I would agree with interviews.
Yeah, I would agree with that, especially with it being an appointed position from us as a city council. I think we need to be more involved in this process.
So would you like to have them come and introduce themselves at the next meeting?
Or it can be by Zoom or whatever. I mean, it doesn't have to be in person, but I do think something a little more involved, whether it be interviews or what you said, Jake, would be appropriate.
Chris, would you like it during a meeting, I think, or would you like to do it outside? My thought was to do it outside.
Yeah, I think if we did an interview, it would be outside, but I also don't think it's a bad idea if they wanted to introduce themselves in the meeting. I don't think that's a bad idea, so.
Yeah, I think it's great.
Yeah, but
David?
an interview, yes, would be outside.
David, I have a question on that for just clarification. If they were to interview them, could it be in a closed session, or would they need to do what they're doing for the city engineer?
It could be in a closed session if you wanted it to, but I don't know why you'd want to.
Yeah, I'm just asking.
Yeah, unless something comes up where you have a question about one of their character or competency or
Yeah.
some kind of background issue you wanted to discuss with them that should be public, then you could do that. That's the kind of thing you would want to take into a closed session. I mean, let's say that you've got a firm or you've got an individual that you have in mind is making a presentation, and afterwards somebody says, before we discuss this, I need to tell you something I know about them, or something like that, and that's not public, then you close the session to talk about that, say, some member done some background checks or something, and you might want a closed session with them to have them explain whatever it is, but you'd only do that if there's something that meets the definition of the statute, dealing with character, competency, mental, physical health. I would suggest that I know the times that I've applied to be a city attorney, I've had to come and make a presentation in public in front of the council, identify when you're dealing with the firm, who the attorney is that you're going to say is your city attorney, what the firm can add, and who the individual is you're going to be dealing with directly, and have them make some kind of public presentation to you so that you just see how they look and sound, at least, and then whatever private interviews you do on the side if you want.
That was my main concern. I wanted to know and discuss the person who was going to be our attorney. Whereas in some cases, those dossiers they gave us, they mentioned more than one individual would handle some of these things. I think at my level, I want to know the person who I'm dealing with.
Okay, that's great. So Jake, maybe we can work through the process where we do calls and set up private interviews if we want, and then we plan a presentation for one of our upcoming meetings.
Yeah, we can definitely do that. I can help Julie.
Okay. All right, are there any other questions from the council?
Nope.
Okay, if not, we're going to move on to 8.1, and we have a youth council member, Holland Welsh, and she is going to be presenting about NARC-X, and she'll give some background about it, and I believe we have some people from the company here as well that can answer questions for the council. So Holland, we'll turn this time over to you.
And Holland, I believe you're able to share your screen as well. I think she has
Yeah.
a quick presentation she wants to do.
Thank you for your time. I would just like to take a few minutes and walk everyone through an exciting opportunity we have to provide an important public health service to the residents of Vineyard City and my role in it. I'm excited to live here and be a part of so many good things that are happening. When tasked with creating a project that would serve my community as a member of the USERV Utah Youth Council, I knew I wanted to work with Vineyard City to do something that positively impacted our community. The initiative is, or public health, sorry, okay. The initiative is simple to understand, but will take a lot of work to implement and educate Vineyard residents. We aim to work with NARC-X and city officials to strategically place NARC-X prescription opioid pill receptacles and educate the public on how to use them and why. My efforts will focus on public outreach, communication, and education. A little bit about me. I know you guys all know each other, but you may not know me. My name is Holland Welch, and I serve on the Vineyard City Youth Council, and I'm also a member of the USERV Utah Youth Council. I'm 16, enjoy learning about everything, and I particularly like science. I'm a junior at UCAS and plan to pursue a career in medicine. My dad insisted that I include fun facts about myself, but it's difficult for me to share details about my life because I'm painfully shy, but I think it's important for you to know who I am and why this is important to me. Okay. I'm really excited to work with this program's sponsors. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of this. All right. We all know that our country is battling a drug overdose epidemic. The problem has grown over the past 20 years. A big part of the problem is the abuse of opioids, and in particular opioid painkiller medicine that is prescribed by doctors. When I was doing my research, I was shocked to learn more than 191 million opioid prescriptions were written just a few years ago for 11.6 billion pills, and that 3.3 billion of these pills went unused. Many of those pills find their way into the hands of others who abuse these drugs or those who sell them illegally. We are not immune to this problem in Utah, unfortunately. Opioid deaths account for nearly 70% of overdose deaths in the state. One big difference when looking at Utah compared to national statistics is that the majority of opioid-caused overdose deaths come from prescription opioids, nearly 2/3 instead of the national average of 1/3. The abuse of unneeded opioid prescription painkillers is a special problem This is the Nardex, which it's been fascinating to me to learn about Nardex's technology. Their products and services represent a true solution to disposing of these unused prescription opioids. We will hear more about Nardex's technology from the representative. I would like to see the Nardex receptacles placed strategically throughout convenient locations in Vineyard. This past summer, I was fortunate to take part in the CDC's Disease Detectives online certificate course and learned about the work the CDC does. I had applied to their summer program for high school students in Atlanta, but it was moved online because of the pandemic. I was surprised to learn exactly how important public communication is to the CDC. Of course, public health education makes sense, but going into the course, I didn't realize just how central effective public communication and education is to the CDC. In many respects, the course prepared me for the role I'll play in this project, contributing to the public outreach part of the program for effective public communication and education. In order for residents to dispose of their unused prescription opioid medication and all other unneeded medications, you will need to understand why preventing drug diversion and accidental overdose is critical to the safety of their own home and public health as a whole. I was struck by the best practices in public communication and education I was taught by the CDC. Those are reflected here. While this isn't an emergency, the START principles are a well-reasoned set of principles by which I will work when creating content. Following these guidelines forces forethought when thinking through the right messaging given our public outreach objectives. The FDA is a deep source of in-the-can media slicks. I really like their Remove the Risk campaign. The alliteration is memorable and simple. We can use this content either directly or we can co-brand it with Vineyard City and ArcX. While a media plan needs to be fully developed, a local news media event can be planned and will reinforce the earned media with social media campaigns, website content, and even door hangers placed on every home in Vineyard, depending on our budget. Unfortunately, the COVID-19 pandemic has increased drug abuse. While the data continues to come in, we do know that alcohol sales are up sharply in Utah and across the country. With individuals having limited access to addiction treatment, there is emerging evidence that drug abuse is increasing, as well as overdose deaths during this time. This adds urgency to our program's goals. I am looking forward to working more with the people in this room. Thank you for your time. Okay.
Thank you, Holly. Are there any questions for her? Christy, did you want to add anything?
Thanks, Holly. That was a great presentation. So I became aware of NARCX several years ago. Gavin Collier, who is the CEO, am I right, Gavin?
I'm chairman of NARCX.
Chairman of NARCX, and he, so this comes through Dynamic Blending, which is actually in Vineyard. Their facility is in the north side of our city, and Gavin told me about this long ago, as when he used to be my neighbor, moved out of our city, but so NARCX is one thing I guess that Holland didn't touch on specifically is the product. So I think it'd be best if Gavin and Steven, right?
I have Christian.
Oh, Christian, yes. Yeah, maybe you guys could talk to us more about the actual product and how that would work in our city.
Sure. So we have a number of different options, and just a little bit about NARCX and what it is. Early on, years ago, and as Christy mentioned, so I own a manufacturing business here in Vineyard as well. It's a contract manufacturing business, and one of our things that we do is we joint venture with different businesses. So we were able to create this formulation in house, but it's sold through the company NARCX, which is actually located in Salt Lake. But the product is the only method of on-site destruction of opiates that has been validated by a DEA criminal laboratory. So the way we were able to get that testing is our partner David Schiller worked for the DEA for many years. He was a special agent and ran the Colorado office and actually oversaw a lot of the diversion program that the DEA had enacted when they originally enacted it, and he carried it through for many years. But he kind of gave us the insight from a Narcax, which will make the drugs inert and biodegradable and safe to be thrown away into the landfill. So Christian can talk a little bit more about it.
So it is a system that uses known products. It is a binary system in that it's a liquid and a solid. And as you deposit your drugs into the solution, and the solution comes in many different sizes from 6 ounces up to 300-gallon totes if needed. But the solution instantly binds with the drug and starts to deactivate the drug, and it's called an API, or the active drug, and it binds with it in such a way that it cannot be released without incredibly high heat, and at that point is destroyed. So this drug has ability, the process is it takes the drug and binds with it so that it can no longer be used. One of the advantages of this type of system is if it's brought to a home, is if someone tries to abuse something after it's been used, it has bitterants. We have things in there so that people cannot consume it, so it can't be diverted, and they won't get anything out of it if they could choke it down. So this is a very simple and a very basic product that is so simple that it's easy to use for anybody. And we've had drug manufacturers, hospitals, hospices use it very successfully to get rid of the drugs that most people don't realize that are in their home right now that can cause some of the problems in our society. We have people that start taking drugs, high school students that start to experiment with drugs, people that are addicted to it and come over to somebody else's house. This is just an incredibly great way to get rid of the product right then and there. So,
and I wanted to point you guys, if you like, we actually produced a pretty cool video on our website. We have it on the website now. If you just went to narcax.com, you're welcome to go view that video. But it kind of, one of the things we did was we worked with Representative Hutchins and Thatcher and got the Drug Disposal Act passed recently, SB 29. And really our goal is to get this product in every home. But what people don't realize, and I'll steal this story, and I know I shared it with the good mayor and with Christy, but Brian Besser, who actually used to run the DEA here in Utah and is now in Washington, he shared a story of an individual that went over to this woman that went over to a friend of hers home and brought her cookies and talked to her for a number of minutes and then asked to use the restroom. And then she went in there, got some pills, and then OD'd on the same pills. So, and he used to say this, and I know he did say this in one of the press conferences that he did, but we are the biggest distributors of drugs, and we don't even realize it, because we, especially I think in Utah, we like to save for later and for these times of need. And so people save their pills and hoard these pills, and I think that it's a noble mission, and we appreciate Holland and what she's wanting to do, and our good mayor Julie Fulmer for pushing this, and Christy, we're very grateful for that. But our goal is to get the pills out of people's hands, and I'm good friends with the owner of Steps Recovery. He said, had my brother, had we destroyed the pills in my home, my brother would still be alive. And that's the truth. There are people that, if they didn't have the temptation, they wouldn't have ever had the opportunity to self-abuse or to abuse and have that overdose event in their life. So we've been pushing this nationally. We're working with the VA, several VAs, and we're actually working with CVS right now. Our goal is to get these prescriptions or these Narcax bottles with every prescription, but that hasn't happened yet. And so in the meantime, we're working on getting these receptacles in every city we can get them in, and also these 6 ounce or whatever the city wants or needs. We'll facilitate that, but it's a big opportunity, I think, to get the pills closely with the mayor of Riverton, and their police chief, he told us when he came from holiday, he said they had over 800 pounds of drugs that people would drop off every month. And, you know, people don't realize that if you have this big accumulation of drugs, that's a big temptation for some people that just want to pay their bills or whatnot. And our partner, David Schiller, will say when you can get $1 a milligram, and these oxycodones are $100 for a 100 milligram pill. I mean, that's more than cocaine, and that's what the reality is. So, so that's why we're here. If you have any questions, we're happy to answer them. Christian was actually the inventor of the formula, and so I brought him so he can answer any technical questions you have.
Well, I just wanted to add that I think it would be really great for everyone on the council or anyone who's participating in the city to go to their website and see the video where it really does talk about the need to tackle this issue, but also explains very clearly what NARCX is, how it works, and all of that. I think what we would be looking at for our city would be one of those receptacles. Like Holland showed a brief picture of it. It's the type of thing that would sit in almost like probably the foyer of our city office, where people could come and dump their medications and drugs in right there in front of the city. I think it could just be as simple as one of those receptacles to start. We could also offer it to all of our citizens if we wanted to pay to have them all have individual bottles. I think there's lots of different scenarios we could look at, but it could just be as simple as one receptacle, and also maybe in our sheriff's police cars that they could take when they're on site. The receptacle does need to be near a sheriff or someone who can keep an eye on it. It can't be like in an HOA clubhouse, that type of thing.
Yeah, and if I could just add one thing, and the reason for that, I think, more importantly, is what we've heard even from a lot of DAs is, I mean, if you look at any hospital, they have little containers where they waste pills. You'll see people go in, and David will tell you this, and they'll go and rip those off the wall. And so the good thing about NARCX is the pills are inert. I mean, they could drink the formula, they will throw up, but they won't get any high from them. So that's the difference, but just to deter, I think, the people going in and grabbing your receptacle, I think initially you'd want to keep it near police, in the city building where you have some people that can see it.
I do have, on our website, you can see all these, but I'm not sure if it would be useful. That's kind of one of those receptacles, if they understand. Is that?
Yeah, that looks good.
Yeah.
We saw one when we were on our site visit. They're about 3 feet tall, maybe 2 feet wide and 1.5 feet deep.
Yeah. It's about that size, yeah. Yeah.
So,
And
we also talked to Holland and Julie and Chrissy about locating some sponsors for the city to start this project. So that would probably be our next step, right, Julie?
Yeah, so one of the things that we talked about was, did the council want to move forward with getting a receptacle? Would be a discussion, but we've also been working with some sponsors from a hospital group to the north in Lehigh, who were interested in sponsoring something like this. And so what we were hoping to do is have Holland do a presentation proposal to a sponsor group and see if they wanted to get a receptacle for her project or work within the homes of Vineyard. They really wanted a way to get into the homes of Vineyard, so getting a small bottle in the homes of Vineyard would be a really good way to promote their hospital. So it could be a joint effort. So that was our next step, was sponsorship through Holland's plan. But if you guys have any thoughts on that, we can move forward.
What's the cost of that receptacle we're talking about?
I have the cost. So for government, obviously we give the best cost we possibly can. It's, let's see,
so you just keep replacing that 5-gallon container that's within it? I mean, how many, I mean, you used pounds of pills in an earlier comment. I mean, how many pounds of pills would a 5-gallon container?
They're 5-gallon container. Every pill, you'd have to be, we call it the size, but on average, you're talking thousands of pills, like 5,000 to 7,000 pills. And sometimes it's a little bit more, sometimes it's a little bit less, depending upon, we've had people take their old vitamins. I mean, they just like, the hospital thing vitamins, there you go, you're like, oh, my Lanta doesn't need to go in there, right? But
I think the pills you would want, I think, and this could be part of Holman's pushes, would be the opiates and would be like antibiotics, things like that harm the environment and harm society. So anything opiate related or anything antibiotic, we want to, I think, promote wasting it in a narcotics container.
Typically replaced about every 3 weeks to a month. I think when Riverton first implemented this, they had 2 of them. And the first week it was like, bam. I mean, because people were coming in and just dropping things off. So there's a huge influx at first, and then it gets down to about every 3 to 4 weeks. It varies just a little bit like that, but it's about that.
Yeah, I think the long-term solution, I think, obviously we're pushing for insurance companies to pay for this solution. But I think more just the awareness, but I think there would be an initial influx, like Christian said, but then I think there would be a lot less steady, but it would be good, I think, just to make people aware. That's kind of what we've been pushing for.
Have you seen, so you brought up Riverton, I mean, has other cities or like Riverton, have they started to help pay for individual ones and past having those available for residents? I mean, is that a long-term plan?
Yeah, so we've had Riverton do that, and we also partnered with IHC, and they bought several thousand units, and they actually gave them out as part of their, I think they did a Help and Live fair, and they handed out 5,000 of them. So yeah, that's happening all over the place. So.
How, I guess when an individual gets one of those bottles, do they just dispose of the bottle itself in the garbage, and that's fine environmentally, or?
Yeah, let me just kind of back up. So each one of those bottles is a system. So if you got a little 6-ounce bottle, if you got a prescription, you got an opioid because of a back injury or whatever, that is designed so that you pour your pills into it, there's a level that tells you how much you can put into it. And then you cap it off and you can throw it in the garbage. The same type of technology is used by the EPA for remediation of cleanup. So it's been tested by a local firm here in Utah that does, it's kind of like an EPA soil testing, but they categorize waste streams for certain types of landfills. There's different types. We had it tested according to D, and D is the most uniform, just the basic one. It doesn't require any hazardous material handling. Doesn't require any of those. It can go in any normal waste stream. That's one of the advantages. Like if you dump the pills into it and you try to drink it, you're not going to get anything out of it. Neither is the environment. You might get sick because you put bitters in it. But yeah.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Gavin. Go ahead.
This is the primary ingredient. If you know what activated carbon is and where carbon comes from, I mean, that's how biodegradable it is. It's consumable. Consumable. And actually, I mean, for a lot of years, people that overdose on drugs, they would pump a similar solution to get them on it because it binds to the drug. That's kind of where the idea came from, and we ended upon it.
What's the cost of the individual bottles?
So the little 6-ounces are $2.82.
And you can actually find them on Amazon now, so it is available. So if people learned even from our promotion in the city, they could go home and order themselves.
We haven't super stocked Amazon yet, but so if you look at our pricing, there's 2 other companies that claim to do what ours does. They don't have any testing that shows that it does what we say and can show what our company does. But it'll be like $8 to $10 to $12 for the same size. So we priced these to be as competitive and low as possible, and owning the manufacturer is nice, and we're able to set the price as low as we can, because we're trying to get this product out to as many people as we can. So, and we're really trying to get insurance companies in the end to pay for this product. But I think the awareness that Holland is pushing, I think, can be really great. And,
The chances of helping people,
yeah.
I mean, that's kind of like.
I invite you to watch that video. Our producer that made the video, he said, you know, I had a surgery years and years ago, and I realized that I had some opiates in my medicine cabinet. And he said he took just a couple of pills, but he knew he had leftovers. And he goes back, and after like 10 or 15 years, he goes and finds the bottle, and it was empty. And he didn't know who took them. And he's got his kids, and it's true. I mean, you can't leave that stuff around, you gotta destroy it.
So I would be in favor of finding a way of funding something like that at the city offices, and even potentially having a certain amount of individual bottles that maybe we could, as a start kickoff to this, pass out or first come, first served city residents, something like that. I think it'd be a great way to do that, and especially with Holland and her presentation, it'd be a great kickoff.
And one other way that I've seen, I mean, we have lots of ways that this product is used, but in Riverton at least, they put, they gave the officers little 6-ounces too, because a lot of times somebody will be pulled over, they'll find something, maybe they don't want to charge them with every single little thing, but the officer has this little bit of drug, you know, it's like, get rid of it or else I bust you for it. And you hear some of these officers are like, what do you do with it? Well, we just open it up and then crush it into the ground. I mean, they would prefer to be able to destroy it in something and then not have it. So I think that's just something good. I really like what they were doing.
Thank you. Chris, I agree with you, and I think that's a great plan. We could get it on our next agenda, or I don't know Holland's exact timeline, but the hope was that through our partnerships with the hospitals and the hospital boards we serve on, that we could come up with some kind of coordination. And maybe as we present this, Holland, for part of your project, maybe what we can do, and Christy, chime in here, but we could approve that on city council and then do some type of presentation in the city. I know we're not doing fairs right now, but Jake, we are doing some things like booths and stuff with drive-ups in the upcoming future, so maybe we can incorporate that somehow.
Yeah, I mean, one thought that I've had since we started this discussion tonight is, what if the city funded the one in the city hall, and then we reached out to the sponsors to get them to provide the option for the residents, and then depending on how much money we have, you know, we can have more available for more residents as they come in over time. But we could kickstart it off with putting a booth in the city hall.
Yeah, I think that sounds great.
Good idea.
If I could add one thing too, we have a PR company that would be happy to publish whatever updates you guys are doing and to help with that with press releases. I know we would be doing that for ourselves, that we could coordinate that.
Oh, that would be wonderful. What we'll do is, maybe Christy, you've been kind of spearheading this on the council side, and Jake, you guys can work with Holland and Gavin, and you guys can coordinate this effort together to see what we need to get this promotion going.
Yeah, that sounds great.
So are you saying that we would need to take a vote on this at our next council meeting?
No, this is a small enough dollar amount, you wouldn't need to, we can just move forward.
Okay, awesome.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, great. And
Thank
just
you, Holland.
Yeah, Holland, you did such a fantastic job. And just for the council and the public to know, she actually presented to Ben McAdams, Congressman McAdams, when he came and toured Dynamic Blending as well. And she did a fantastic job talking about kind of what we're facing as a country and in a state, and how we can make a difference in our city. So it was really fantastic to be a part of. And thank you guys for hosting us. That was really great. So.
Yeah, anytime.
Okay, well, we'll look forward to working together, and we'll move on to our next discussion item. And actually, it looks like there was a
communication error, so 8.2 and 8.3, because we don't have all of the information and the people who are going to be working on this with us. If you guys wouldn't mind continuing this until the next meeting in September, that would be great.
So moved.
I'll second that motion. The only other comment I'd make about it is I'll actually be gone for the next meeting.
Oh, would you like us to move it to the next meeting after that?
I would like to be a part of it if I could.
Good.
That's great, Chris, we'll do that. Okay, so do we
So
need a
with that amendment,
specific
with that-
date, Kim?
We just amend my motion to the following.
First meeting in October.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
You second that, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, any opposed? Okay, seeing that there are none, we can close our meeting, I just need a meeting motion to adjourn.
So moved.
A second. Okay, two of you, no, we'll go with Christie, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay, and that's all we have tonight, thanks, guys.
Aye.
The,
Well,